Welcome to the Dirt Court Jesters podcast, your home for dirt track racing across the country and right here in the Ohio Valley. This is Josh, and in episode 43, there's a racetrack for sale, series full-timers, and Ryan Barr, driver of the number 21B sprint car, joins me to talk about his upcoming season. I hope you guys are ready to get dirty. This week in dirt racing history, we're going back to February 25th of 2012 in Bubba Raceway Park, where the All-Star Circuit of Champions would pay a visit. Danny Lasowski would get the win, Aaron Ott in second, and Danny Holtgraver would round out the podium.
Let me talk to you!
This week's talking points: Brush Creek Motor Speedway is for sale, 45 acres in Adams County, Ohio. Great investment opportunity with endless possibilities. As I said, 45 acres with a racetrack, commercial cooking area, stadium bleachers, and more. It is already zoned commercial with excellent exposure to State Route 41. And in looking at the pictures, the property looks ready to roll. Was $399,000, now $340,000, and I guess there is an additional 42 acres available. If you go to landforsaleinOhio.com, you can learn more information about buying yourself a racetrack. Lawrenceburg and Circle City are both looking for help in various positions at the track in 2025. If you go to their social media pages, you can find out how to apply for those. Eldora Speedway, camping for the Kings Royal, 2 spots left in Northside, 12 in BFE, and roughly 80 in Eldora Village. Everything else is sold out. Eldora Speedway, camping for the World 100, there's 5 in BFE, 12 in Eldora Village, and everything else is sold out. Speed camping and parking is probably going to have some openings as well. Like I've been saying, if you're planning on attending either of those events, I would not wait if you're going to camp at the track. Get your tickets now. All-Star Circuit of Champions announced at Waynesfield on June 19th and the Jamie Miller Memorial. On top of that, already cool event, the Wild Child Jack Hottenshield's going to pace the field as well. Sounds like that event at Waynesfield on June 19th is going to be a very special one to attend. I'm really impressed with how many series have at least a dozen or more full-time drivers going into 2025. We all know the National Series from the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars to High Limit to Lucas Oil late models, as well as the World of Outlaw late models. And USAC sprints have good numbers, but it doesn't stop there. Power Eye's got 16 full-timers, and the newly revised All-Star Circuit of Champions has 11 full-timers. As concerned as everyone was about the cost, and rightfully so, this certainly seems like a positive sign. Midway Speedway announces a new LS late model series. The intention is to be able to field a car at very low cost, under $10,000, but for everyone to be on an even playing field. ECMs will be issued during the pill draw. The latest Dirt Nerds discuss this, and many others have had similar questions. If you go check out Midway Speedway's post on this, there's over 700 comments. Simply questions about controlling the cost and what other kind of tech would be in place in order to police all this. I think it sounds like a great idea, but as others have said, there are some important questions that need to be addressed. The Great Lake Lightning Sprint schedules out 16 races starting at Silver Bullet Speedway and ending at Crystal Motor Speedway. All races except August 1st, which is in Millstream, are going to be in Michigan. I'd like to see them go to Limeland or Waynesfield, maybe give Ohio a few more races. As I said on the last episode, the Keep Gas City Speedway petition has over 4,000 signatures, actually approaching 5,000 right now. If you go to gascityspeedway.com, you can help support this cause. And breaking news as I'm recording this, Cale Thomas announced he's teaming back up with the Rudzik Racing 49X, and they're planning on competing with the All-Star Circuit of Champions for the 2025 season. I got to tell you, when this announcement came out, I think that makes Cale Thomas my pick to win the championship for the All-Stars in 2025. Now let's go behind the rock screen.
You're welcome to come on in. We'll bring out the moonshine, start telling lies and calling up the women. But no talk about racing. Come on.
Hey everybody, Josh here with the Dirt Court Jesters podcast. Very grateful to have Ryan Barr, the driver of the 21B non-wing 410 sprint car out of Piqua, Ohio, with me. Ryan, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So the first thing I'm going to ask you, and I probably should have checked with you on this beforehand, but I'm going to ask you this, and if it's wrong, then we'll revisit it. Is your birthday the day after Christmas?
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Yep, December 26, 2001.
All right. So I have to pose the question: how does it feel having your birthday the day after Christmas?
So, like, everybody kind of is iffy about it, right? But luckily, my mom was really cool about it. Like, she always split it up really well. Christmas was always big for me because I was an only child.
Okay.
So I got spoiled in that regard. But, like, if I ever had, like, a birthday party or anything, she would always make sure that all of my birthday presents had to be in like happy birthday paper. It couldn't be in Christmas paper because then it was a Christmas gift. So she did really well like breaking that up. So it wasn't like I said, everybody makes a big deal about it, but I never had that problem. So it was pretty nice.
I came across that and I was like, I gotta ask this, and part of the reason I gotta ask it is because I was born on Christmas Day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I just was kind of curious of what your input was on that, because people. I mean, obviously, I'm asking you. I'm sure people ask you. Actually, me, I've got a twin brother, and my aunt on my mom's side. All of us were born on Christmas Day.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Well,
so,
I mean, at least you share it with a really cool person.
Yeah. It's different. It's different. And anytime anyone asks me, like, well, how does it feel to have your birthday on Christmas? Like, I don't know. I don't know anything different.
Right. Yeah. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to have it like halfway through the year so you kind of get, a little bit of present in the summer and like a little bit of presents in December. But it's like, I get them in one heap. So it's pretty cool.
There you go. I know you tell some of this story when you were with the guys on the dirt tracks and rib racks in 2023, that both of your sides of your family were into racing. So what drew you specifically into sprint car racing?
So sprint car racing was mainly like my dad's part of the family. It was like their dream. My mom's part started with my grandpa Ronnie. He was more into like the late models and modifieds. And he owned a late model at one time and hobby stockers. They mainly ran Eldora and stuff like that. So he was kind of more into the fender cars. But my grandpa Mike, who my dad's dad, he was really big into Indy, the Indy 500 and stuff like that. So he was more open wheel guy. Okay. So he just got, and he actually helped on a guy named Bob Stocker back in the 80s at Lawrenceburg. So he was helping on non-wing sprint cars, and he just loved it. My dad absolutely fell in love with it. And then ever since I've been racing, like we raced quarter midgets, which were miniature sprint cars. And then I just, was pushed kind of the open wheel route, and that's all I've ever known. So, the late models I think are cool. I love watching late models, but, sprint cars to me, that's the best racing there is. So I just got kind of pushed towards that. And, thankfully I am where I am.
Yeah. So 10 years ago, you were running MMSA. What made you decide to go away from the wing?
Really just money. At that time, like the 305 deal was kind of, I wouldn't really say like a step up, more like a step to the side. You get your foot into sprint cars, right? And you get to kind of learn, what you're doing with chassis, but motor-wise, you're not really going too much faster. And money-wise, you're still spending a little bit more than minis, but like not as much as 410 stuff, obviously. And 360s at the time, they were kind of struggling. Like they didn't have the GLSS series at that time. It was still like the NRA Sprint Invaders, and they were running every other Friday at Lima. And so it was like that was kind of struggling. We were looking at like, maybe those won't be a class in another 2-3 years. So it was like, why would we invest into that when we may be out of it sometime soon? The love for non-wing sprint cars has always been there. Like, I prefer non-wing over wing just to watch. And, we had thought, Waynesfield was going to do a thing that coming year. So we were like, okay, we'll be pretty cool, like, to go to Waynesfield and get our feet wet and then the non-wing stuff. But that didn't end up happening, which, for everything happens for a reason, right? So we just kind of ran everywhere and then kind of just fell in love with Lawrenceburg and how close it was to us. It's only an hour and a half from here in Piqua. So we started doing that, and, it's now we've kind of set ourselves like this is as far as we're ever going to go. If non-wing so happens to die and wing kind of takes over, that'll probably be it for us, which hopefully that day never comes. But non-wing's just was the cheaper alternative for us, and it was kind of me and Dad's dream more so than the wing.
Okay, well, you touched on a couple different things there. So I mean, the first thing I think of is when you mentioned the 360s. Like, I was with you, really. Not maybe a couple years ago now I think GLSS really stepped it up. Because I was concerned for 360 racing, particularly in Ohio. That's what I grew up on. I grew up at Limaland and mini sprints and bombers there before they eventually started carrying 360s and modified stocks as their regular show forever. And I was concerned about 360s going away. And you also talk about your love for Lawrenceburg, how it's close to you, and how you had family that was there in the 80s. And then I know you've had a bunch of history there at Eldora as well. But to get back to the original question, I know you explained there how you got away from the wing. So the question is, would you ever throw a wing back on?
So, on our car, my dad is a very strong no. We'll never run wing with our team. Like, our car doesn't even have wing tabs. It is a strictly non-wing chassis. Not to say we couldn't weld them on later. But we also don't have the horsepower. Like, we could probably run Fremont on, like, a slick night. But, yeah, Dad's a strong no on it. But my buddy Michael Facesher, who owns the 4J that Sean Westerfeld drives and Justin Owen used to drive, right. We've threw it up in the air. He wants to go wing racing every now and then, and we've talked about possibly doing one night with me in it and then one night with Sean in it and just going and playing around. I think that'd be fun. I'd love to get the chance in a wing car just to see what it's like. But no, unfortunately, I don't think you'll ever see RVR with a wing on top.
Okay, well. And you also, you mentioned like wing racing and where is that going to go? And I think in my head, specifically in Indiana, like I've kind of wonder where they're going to be in another year or two, because I know it seems like they're trying. Indiana's a non-wing state, in my opinion, and I think other people will agree with that, and which is fine. But I feel like they're with the Maverick series, they were trying to get the wing stuff started up. And just a lot of things happened there, but it seems like there's some wing racing in the state of Indiana in 2025 that I think it'll be interesting to see how that goes. To say non-wing racing in Indiana is always going to be king, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see if wing racing can find a niche in Indiana this coming season.
Yeah, it's you're always going to have your special shows, like when High Limit comes to Lawrenceburg, or I don't know if the Outlaws still do, but when the Outlaws used to go to Bloomington, just that kind of thing. Like, they're always going to be around for your big shows, right? It's just something different to draw fans. But like Circle City did it a couple years ago when they tried to have like a full wing deal through the week, and it just kind of like tapered off because Indiana just doesn't want wing. The fans will say it for a year and then they're like, okay, we want the non-wing back, because it's just a different style of racing that I hate to say it's, one lane, not passing, but it's more of a chess game than it is in the non-wing world, where it's just so chaotic and you get the big sliders and the passing and everything just because it's, so out of control. Whereas the wing, you have to keep everything so steady and plan everything out very well. So like, in Ohio, that's great for, the Ohio slick track, right? And then Indy, they water it a little bit better than Ohio. So, we can get the power out of the non-wings in Indiana where, we can't in Ohio. So I think that's one of the big divides there. So I don't know. Like I said, I think Indiana is always going to be non-wing country. It's just we got to get tracks back to that. We got to get non-wing locals back to the area.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. I saw a video from your first night, I believe it was, in a sprint car in 2019. Gosh, I'm trying to remember now if it was. I don't think
North
it was
Vernon?
Mansfield. Yeah, you would know better than I would, but it was on one of your social media accounts, and I got to tell you, for being your first night in a sprint car, you were just driving that thing, man. How did it feel?
It was definitely different. Like, we bought that car. It was a Hawk chassis, which was kind of like not super well known. So there wasn't a whole lot of guys to be able to help us. Like Luke Hall had one, and he gave us, some help. But I had an old Nichols Brothers steering in it, and the mini sprint was all manual. Like, it wasn't power steering; it was all manual steering. So that was like one of my biggest concerns. It wasn't the speed or anything. I was like, man, I'm gonna just go and flat out into the wall because I don't know the difference in steering here. And obviously I didn't know any better, and I'm out there I'm sawing it, and it's just not hardly moving at all. I came in, I was like, I told Dad, I said, I don't think the steering's right. And he's like, oh no, you're just not used to the power steering. Well, come to find out that the box was bad. And like the power steering was completely shot in it, and it was like it had no resistance in the box. So I'd go into the turn and it'd feel like an 18-wheel trucker. I'm just going sawing at it back and forth, and so that was. And after, I think that it took us like 3 races to figure that out. And Dad was like, "Man, you really kind of drove the wheels off it with not having any steering." And I was like, "Well, I didn't know any better. I was first time in a sprint car. I'm just going to mat it to the wood and hope for the best,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, first time in your sprint car, like, it's great. You can't get any better than that. And so that was really the only downside to it was my steering was a little shaky, right? But at that time, I didn't know any better, so it was just go out there and have fun.
That's right. I actually came across an article in the Dayton Daily News. And it mentioned that in 2021, you became the 4th member of your family to race at Eldora.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, one of the most iconic tracks, not just in dirt racing, but in racing in general. So what to you did that mean to continue your family's legacy at the Big E?
That's something that was really huge, for my whole family, right? Not just myself. Because at that time we had lost, my grandpa Mike was still alive, but, we had lost my grandpa Ronnie several years ago, and, he wasn't there to be able to see it. But I always tell everybody, like, the Hewitts, that's Eldora, right? And I feel like we're kind of second to that because we've had, my grandpa Ronnie and my uncle Tom, his brother, owned cars. And then my grandpa Mike drove stock cars with my dad, who my dad drove for my grandpa Ronnie. And then my uncle Casey, my dad's brother, drove for my grandpa Mike. So it's just, I mean, there's been a bar on the track at Eldora every year since I think 2003, and I don't know how long my grandpa Ronnie owned cars before that, but he's had cars on Eldora decades before that even. So, and then my parents met just down the road in Willowdale at the go-kart track. So at least how we go, we pass Willowdale on our way to Eldora. So, I get to see my little family history at a go-kart track on my way to Eldora. So, the tradition there is unreal, right? Like you go to Eldora and, people see our performance there and they're like, oh, it doesn't mean anything, but it does because, obviously me and my dad's dream forever was to just be able to race a non-wing sprint car, right? And now we're racing non-wing sprint cars at Eldora, which was our family's bread and butter for years. It is really cool. And I always forget to mention this too, but my great grandmother, Mary Lou McGinnis, we always called her Grandma Dingy, and she was one of the biggest Tony Stewart fans ever.
Yeah.
And then I believe it was 2008, she won Eldora's #1 fan award at the banquet.
I remember seeing that in that article.
Yeah, she's still, she's on the little memory wall that they have out there out front, like right by the pond. Yeah. She's still on there as Eldora's biggest fan.
Nice.
So, it's pretty cool to kind of keep that name going and keep the name on the track because now I'm the only one that does it. And yeah, I mean, just even now to this day, like even when I pull out onto the track, you can just kind of feel it, run through you, that it's the prestige of that place and just the roots that run so deep in my family, at least. It's unreal. And knowing that no matter what I do, everybody above and here in my family is going to see it. And it's just really cool.
Yeah, I can't imagine being in that spot. I'm just a fan. I'm just out here like trying to share information for really, covering some stuff nationally, but trying to get teams and tracks, drivers like yourself, especially in the area. I'm in the Dayton area, like you, like just trying to help as best as I can. And Eldora is probably 55 minutes from me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like going to that track. And I always tell people this story. There was one time they had a band, and I can't remember. I want to say it was Kings Royal, but they maybe had a band like a day early before it went to the 4 nights. It was like the 3 nights, and I can remember walking into the main grandstand, and there was one light on in the building in the infield, and that was it. And just sitting in the main grandstands, nobody's around, and that place is just awesome. There's no other way to put it. I can't imagine being a driver and getting in a car and going out there and ripping around that place.
Yeah. That's the sad thing is like during race day, it kind of takes away from that, right? Because you're so focused on, the task at hand of just, I got to get to the front. I got to do my job. But it's when you kind of sit back after the races and you kind of take it all in of like, I just did what, everybody dreams of doing. And sometimes you kind of take that for granted. Like I've left that place several times just mad and upset at how our night went or how things went. And, like I said, I feel like I take it for granted sometimes of like what I get to do. I am living, my dream. Yeah. And especially there, that was always the biggest thing is I wanted to run the 4 Crown at Eldora. That was the #1 race that I always wanted to run. And I've got to do that. So, Eldora is a special place, man. No matter you're watching, you're crewing, you're racing, or hell, even if you're just partying in the campground, it's just something unreal.
Definitely. A top 5 and 8 top 10s in 2024. Does that sound right?
Something like that, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. 4 races with GLTS. 3 of those top 10 finishes. I know you're a fan of Lawrenceburg, but a 4th at Millstream, it had to feel pretty nice. 11th. 11th.
That was a really cool night. I joke about it because it was kind of a cluster of a night, to just miscommunication, and that's okay. They're new promoters and everything. It is what it is. It makes for a great story. Now we can all laugh about it. But we were supposed to run the big half-mile track, or the 3/8 mile, whatever they said. And after the watering issue, we all end up running the 1/4 mile, which was awesome. And I joke about it because we made 5 gear changes that night. And I said, I've changed gear more at this racetrack than I have in the garage all year long. um, so I think we started like 14th or something, and it was just I was like, man, it's slick. I'm just going to run the bottom. And I was running the bottom and I was doing pretty good. And I forget how far I got up. I passed a couple cars, maybe not 8th or ninth. And I just kind of like hit a plateau. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going anywhere. Like, this isn't for anything. I was like, I'm just going to put it up on the top and see what it'll do. And then I started picking off more cars. And I was like, this is unreal. Like, I'm having a night here. So I was like, I'm just going to see how far I can take it. And then I actually did get lucky because I think Paul Dews and Trey Osborne end up like popping off the top. And so like I got a few easy ones there. But still, I mean, it was really cool. And I think it was Ricky ended up winning it. Corbin Hazlett was second, and Aiden Salisbury was third. And Aiden was the only one out of the top 4 that was running right along the tires, man. And it took me everything I could. I still couldn't get around him, but man, that was really fun because I like the quarter miles. I think they can get pretty rowdy, especially when you're ripping the lip like that. And I struggle with that sometimes of getting up top, and it was pretty curbed up, and it no walls, so you can you can easily get in trouble, when you fall off. So that was. Millstream was really cool, and they talk about, I think we got 4 or 5 races there this year between USAC and GLTS, and I think Boss even has a race there this year, so we're definitely going to hit as many as we can, and I'm kind of hoping they do some on the quarter mile. I thought that was really fun, but...
I think if I recall correctly, I want to say like maybe half of their races are going to be on the quarter mile this year.
Yeah, I hope so. Because it got rowdy. It was really fun.
Well, and I like the fact that they, when I was young, like a lot younger, I remember going to Millstream, and now that they brought it back and they took that wall out, so now they've got the 2 tracks. I mean, That's awesome. So, I mean, I think the quarter mile Millstream moves up into your top tracks, but
yeah,
what is your favorite track to race at?
I think by default, right, it's Lawrenceburg. It's just big, fast, and nasty, as I like to tell people. Like, you can just get down and dirty there, and just it's the most fun you can have being scared for your life. It's it really is. It gets rowdy. I really enjoy Waynesfield. I kind of struggle there. We've had some good nights and some bad. But I really do enjoy Waynesfield. It's like one of the fastest quarter miles I feel like I've ever been on. And just like, there's nothing better than like ripping 1 and 2. And then you got to go hauling down the backstretch and like kind of cheese it in there a little bit. Cause you're afraid of
because you don't want to go too high in 3.
Yeah. And that was the last time we were there was kind of crazy because I was following Luke Hall, and he's, right rear right on the wall in 3 and 4. And I watched him bounce the right rear off the wall and like diamond the corner. And I was like, he's faster than me, so I got to try it. And I tried it one time, and I bounced the right rear straight off the wall. And I was like, nope, I'll run. I'll run behind him. I don't know if I can do that every lap. So I believe that's the night that Cale Drake won it. And it was just, that place can get rowdy. That's really fun. Believe it or not, like we just talked about Eldora. Eldora is one of my least favorite tracks to drive, just because it's so big and we struggle so much there. And like, I just got to find my balls to run the top there, and it like takes me all week just to even talk myself up into going and doing it. Just because I know if I mess up that it's probably going to be a couple weeks before I get back to the track, because you don't come back with very much there.
Yeah, Adam Crewy told me one time, if you're going to run the top of Eldora, you better have balls and a big bank account.
Yeah, essentially. And like we've got the 2 cars now. One's still just a bare frame, but it's like I still don't want to push the issue a whole lot, right? I did get a little ballsier this past year in the B main for, I believe it was the Fort Crown. I put it up top, a little bit higher than everybody else was in the B main, and started picking off a few spots, but that was about as far as I wanted to go. I don't know how those guys ride that hair thin ledge up on top like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned Lawrenceburg, and I'll tell you, the first time I walked in, I every time I go to Lawrenceburg, I park in the lot closest to the main road there. And so the first time I walk in, you walk in and you see the wall for turn one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, holy crap. And then you get in there and you see, and it's just a big bowl. It's a wild track for sure.
Oh yeah.
And then you got Waynesfield that's got, like you said, you can fall off there in 1 and 2, but you better not get too far off, because going into 3, that half wall pops up. I've seen a couple modified guys drill that thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little sketchy there. And then, like you said, Eldora on the top. I mean, there's something about all those tracks. They got a little bit of character in them.
Oh yeah, and every track's got its little spooky factor, right? Like even Gas City, like Scotty Weir once told me, he said the best way to qualify here is just hold it wide open all the way around the top. He said, do not let off. And I've done it, and it is, even on that place, it's still, kind of spooky. And like going into 1 and 2 at Kokomo, that's kind of spooky. Every track's kind of got its, you got to be a man to do that type of stuff. You got to be on the spectrum of a little crazy. And
fair.
There's a lot of times I struggle with that, because I got to wake up and I got to go to a job the next day, and I got to see my parents foot the bill for this, and I got to help fix it. So, I think that kind of plays into some of it sometimes. And but yeah, I mean, it does come down to a lot of those places. You just got to man up and do it, and let your foot override your brain sometimes.
For the 2025 season, anything new on your end as far as racing?
Not necessarily. I think everybody kind of saw the whole thing with Lawrenceburg's schedule, so that kind of opens us up to go travel a little bit more. It sounds like we're going to be hitting a few more boss races this year. Like, we're not fully committing to the schedule because there are some other places that we want to go that overlap. I think we're going to hit some GLTS stuff. Like, I saw Butler was on the USAC ticket and GLTS this year, so I think we're going to go try and hit Butler. We've never been there.
Okay.
And a lot of Millstream. I just read the other day that Red Farmer had got Waynesfield, so excited to see what he does with that. Hopefully we'll get a few shows there. Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of up in the air. We're actually getting ready to sit down and do like a whole tentative schedule of what's going to go on here soon. But usually we'll do like our typical 20-25 shows a year. That's about all we can afford, unless something else comes along. Maybe I get a ride or something. But yeah, other than that, nothing really different other than we're not going to be around Lawrenceburg a whole lot this year. It sounds like we'll be mostly back in Ohio for the, a majority of it, which is kind of nice. It's not too far. And Montpelier's, coming on. I think we got 4 or 5 races there this year. I think we're going to try and hit most of them.
Nice.
Because that's still pretty close for us, and that's a pretty neat track. So, yeah, I mean, nothing super new. Just going to be traveling a little bit more than normal.
But staying in this general area, do you have any long trips planned for any race that you want to hit, or are you going to be pretty much around Ohio, Michigan?
No,
Indiana?
We always throw up the idea of going to Hobstadt every now and then, which is like a 5.5 hour pull for us. But that's like just finance wise, we have to look at that, right? Because that track back home, that's long for Dad to drive the truck and trailer, so that's usually a hotel room. So we kind of got to look at that, and we know where we're at going there, that it's going to be a struggle for us to make the show just because that place drives so different. And, if you don't run down there weekly, it is a struggle against those local guys. So that's more of if we've been rained out for a month and a half and we just want to go racing, we may do that. But I don't honestly know of any super long trips. I know that March 29th we're going to Brownstown. I think that's a MSCS, or not MSCS anymore, but the Midwest Thunder Sprint Series.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of their first shows. So we're talking about possibly going to that, and I think that's 2.5, 3 hours for us.
Okay. What do you think about the additional night for the Four Crown at Eldora?
Oh, I'm stoked because now I get to race twice. I love it. I mean,
Should help on Saturday too, right?
Yeah. We'll race Eldora whenever we can, right? Just because it's literally 30 minutes from my house. It's the closest one to me, and again, it goes back to the whole tradition thing. Like, I'm pretty sure my mom would say we're only racing Eldora if she could. So, that's her favorite place. She was born and raised there. I was born and raised there, and it's so yeah, we'll race Eldora whenever we can. So we'll be there the Thursday and Saturday. We're going to do the both Let's Race 2. I think we're going to even do the Tuesday night where we're the show fill for Ohio Speed Week.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean that's going to be pretty cool. Like, I'm excited to have a Tuesday night in the schedule. That's kind of out there, but
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about the Thursday night deal because that gives us a nice little break. Because I don't know if we'll go back to watch for Friday night at all because we can just go back home. So we'll probably maintenance all day Friday, and that gives us a nice little break in between there to get ready for Saturday and learn a little bit more on, hopefully what's going to happen with track conditions and everything.
Sure. On the very, very rare chance that you get to be a fan, what is your favorite track to watch a race at?
I really liked Kokomo and Hobstad. Watching a non-wing race at Hobstad is like no other. Like, that's just insane. Because I've raced there a couple of times, and I made the last time I was there, I made the feature, and I think I was like 6 laps in, and I'm running dead last, and they're not too far away from me, but I'm not anybody to compete with, right? And I'm fully cocked, like perpendicular to the corner, and I feel like I'm about to spin out every lap, and I'm head's fully turned out the right side of the car, and here comes Kyle Cummins, and he's more sideways than me, and I was like, I don't know how these guys pull it off because he's literally backing it into the turn, like his ass end was coming around before his front was. And then he just drives off away from me. So to sit in the stands and watch those guys do that, that's pretty unreal. But I always tell people, I made a USAC show at Lawrenceburg this year for the Justin Owen, and I can start 24th there and be completely content because that is the coolest seat in the house. USAC at Lawrenceburg is probably one of my favorites. That's it was the USAC opener there in 2016, I believe, where I fell in love with sprint cars. It was the year John Stanbro had the Robin Egg Blue 81 car. Chase Stockham was still in his own stuff. Chris Wyndham was in the Baldwin car. Tracy Hines was still running. I think it was his last year. So it was just a really neat year for USAC, and that's like where I fell in love with it. So it sucks that they don't have the opener anymore. But I really like the JO Memorial, just because it's honoring one of my good friends. But yeah, USAC at Lawrenceburg is just insane. Like, those guys go crazy. Even the midgets there, like, if you run a midget at Eldora or Lawrenceburg, you're crazy. Like, that's just stupid. But I like watching that. And and
the midgets at Eldora is wild.
It's insane. But Waynesfield too, like, I like watching just because that's kind of where I grew up watching local non-wing stuff. So I like watching there too. It just brings back old, nostalgic memories of seeing it. So, but like all the places I like to race, I like to watch too. So
Hey.
just because they're close to home, and other than Hobstad, but that one's that's always like I tell anybody that's a fan, that's a crown jewel. You got to go watch non-wing sprint cars at Hobstad just one time.
There you go. You guys have heard it from the man himself. Jacob Horde and I touched on this, and I heard you mention it in interview with the Dirt Track and Rib Rack guys a few years ago. The interaction between fans and teams and drivers is really what sets dirt racing apart from other major sports, in my opinion. I know that's your opinion, and that's just something that if the sport can grab a hold of anything that they want to separate themselves from everything else, it's, I've talked to you, I don't know how many times now, and you've thrown stickers on your car, and like, I'm not going to a baseball game, an MLB game or an NFL game and having any of that happen. Mm-hmm. But I can go to a dirt track and rub elbows with cool drivers and just shoot the shit like we've known each other for a long time. Just the best thing about dirt racing, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, that's one of my favorite parts, because I'm a nobody. I'm the same as anybody sitting in them stands. I just got a lucky break. I got two really cool parents that put me in a really awesome position, and a lot of sponsors that believe in me to put me in a better place. So, it's pretty cool to be where I'm at and to know, anybody in the stands is the same as I. I'm just an average guy who works 40 hours a week and loves drinking beer. So, I like when people come down and want to share that with me. They think I'm a superstar. Well, I think it's great that they're even there to watch me do that. And, I love the interaction afterwards, and just kind of the party after the race is half the fun of it, right? You get to see everybody and talk and sign autographs. I love signing autographs as people like getting them. So,
yeah.
That's the fun of it for me, is you're making somebody who's no different than yourself feel like a superstar, So it's a really neat thing that dirt racing can get so involved in the fan aspect, and just kind of make everybody who feels like they're nothing outside of it feel like something while they're there, So that's really the great thing about our sport.
Oh yeah, definitely. You talk about, parties and all the stuff around dirt racing, and I can't not tell the story multiple times because it's just the coolest thing. We were at 4 Crown last year, and my oldest and his buddy were hanging out with another kid about their age. We're at a party, and actually I was looking for Bunner, and I found out he already left. So we're just standing there talking to folks because, most of the time you walk into a party at Eldora, nobody cares, just hang out and have a good time. So next thing I know, boys come over, and Hunter Maddox comes over with them, and he's like, they said they're interested and they want to help. They come down tomorrow, they can help. I'm like, all right.
That's awesome.
So the boys got to go down the next day and help him all day, and he talked to him and showed him things, and you're not getting that in any other sport. Right.
Well, the other fun thing is like I'm still a small enough name that usually, like Friday night, I'll go up because, like I mentioned earlier, Michael Facesher, who's a good friend of mine, that's like their 1 weekend off of racing. You don't race on 4 Crown, that is party weekend, right? So we still race, but I'll go up Friday night and hang out with them and maybe have a beer or something. But you'll be walking through the campground and people don't even know who you are, and might be giving you shit or something. Like, there was one guy who was actually wearing my T-shirt. And I walked up and I was like, "Hey, dude, nice shirt." And he was like, "Thanks." And I was like, he had no clue that I was him, right? And I was like, man, that's kind of humbling, right? So then on Saturday when you're there, you're like, I wonder if that guy even knows, right? Yeah. Like, does he even know that that's me? And so you get both sides of it in my aspect, right? There's some people that, think I'm the best, and there's other people that don't even know my name that are wearing my shirt. So,
how's the RB Blocks things going? How's that going?
Kind of teetering off. I only sold a couple sets of them, and through the off season, I got a second job, so I wasn't really able to make any more. I'm thinking about. I got designs to be making a little different squaring block than what people have on the market right now, and I'm trying to work some fine details out in that, and then maybe get a prototype for our car and work on that. But there hasn't been a whole lot of interest just because of what's already out there. It's already pretty competitive. So I'm kind of on the fence of whether I'm going to keep going with that endeavor or not.
Did you start that up like a year ago?
It was just probably a month before the King's Royal, I think is when I did it. And I'm really lucky with Medway Tool that's on the side of the car. That's my full-time job. I work there as a machinist, and I have a key to the shop, so I was staying over, and I stayed one night for like 17 hours straight, and so I make them all there, and it's really nice. But I've made a bunch of other race car parts there that, if we're in a pinch and need something and we can't run to Indy and get it, or we don't have time to ship it, I just run over there and make it. So that's really cool. Like, I love that part of my career. Yeah. But yeah, with the RB blocks, like I'm looking to do some midget stuff. I've had a lot of like the D2 guys contact me about it, but again, I'm working out some of the details in that and trying to get pricing right. And but just working, I don't have my second job anymore, so it does kind of free some of that up. But working full time, and then now racing season's getting ready to start. It's kind of hard to break that time up. So I don't know if anything more will come of it or not. I may get a wild hair and end up doing it again. I got 2 more sets available, so I'm trying to sell those. But I think if those sell, maybe I'll do another round and see. But it all just depends right now.
Well, and it sounds, it's still young, and it sounds like you're still kind of tweaking things, and as well as I do, some of that stuff, it just takes time to grab hold and take off.
Yeah, so we like the ones we use since mini sprints were made at Medway. Like Mark Rice, who we talked about before we started airing. He was my boss and mentor, my dad's best friend, and unfortunately we lost him to pancreatic cancer in December. He designed the main block, and then I just kind of tweaked the design, actually. And we've been running with those since mini sprints, right? So, I mean, we've had them for a decade now, and those are the ones I still use. Like, I don't even have a set of my new ones that I've made. It's, the 10-year-old ones, because they still last. So, yeah, I've just made it a little bit better to, make them last even longer.
Okay. Are you going to have the car at the the former Piqua Mall for the car show in March?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, hopefully we'll be front and center, because the guy that puts it on is a sponsor on the car.
Oh, all right.
So,
well, there you go.
Yeah, Steve Stiffel that puts it on with Stiffel Home and Auto. He's one of our bigger sponsors, and we appreciate him coming on. So hopefully he gives us a good spot to showcase his sticker off. And now, rumor had it, I don't know if they're getting it done yet, but there might be a bar where the old food court was. So,
all right.
Sounds like there might be a party every night, which is fine with me.
Yeah, definitely.
They have a Mexican restaurant there too that I've heard has really good margaritas. So that might be.
There's a rest. I can't think of what it is. There's one in the parking lot. We actually stopped and ate before we came into the mall last year. There was a place out. We had wings out there that were pretty good. But it slipped my mind what the name of the place is right now.
Is it Buffalo Wings and Rings?
That may have been it.
Yeah,
that may have been it, because I can't say that I've been there, but maybe once, and that may have been the one time, and it was good. But yeah, that car show, I'm looking forward to that. That kind of gets season rolling. Things are getting real when you start seeing cars. I
think that weekend is No Way Out this year, the No Way Out 40 at Paragon. which we don't normally go to, but I don't know if we'll see like a decline in the non-wing sprint cars there since that race is going on or not. But yeah, I mean, they've got everything from quarter midgets and go-karts to, I mean, Hornets to asphalt late models, winged and non-wing sprint cars, vintage cars. I mean, it's a great show, and I highly recommend everybody come out because it really is a good time. Like, they've got in the old movie theater, the mall now, it got completely redone. It's almost like a Sky Zone. I believe it's called like Hero Day or something, but it's like an action park, trampoline park kind of deal for the kids. Yep. And like I said, I believe there's supposed to be a big bar in the center of the food court now, so it'll have something for kids and adults. And so
had a band last
really
year. I think they have a band again this year.
I believe so, if construction is done, because I think that's going to limit some of the car count this year, just depending on how much construction takes up. Because I don't know, I haven't been in there since last year's car show, just because of everything that goes on. It's not really much of a mall anymore as it is. I mean, they call it the center now, so it's less of a mall, more of, I don't even know what you would call it, just like a gathering place, I guess. And so I haven't been in there since then. But I think the car count may be a little bit down compared to years past, but it'll still have, the simulators will be there, and you can go iRacing, and I think they'll have food vendors and everything. So it's still a good time.
Definitely. I always wrap up the interviews with some lightning round questions. So I've got 10 questions for you. Most of them will be pretty quick answers, but let's see what you got. Question number 1: celebrity crush growing up.
Selena Gomez.
So some of these I've asked you already because I talked to you about this at the car show last year.
Yeah.
Favorite cartoon?
Probably SpongeBob growing up.
Favorite pro wrestler?
I don't know. That one's hard. I like Dolph Ziggler and Chris Jericho and CM Punk a lot. Those are my 3.
Right. Hey, I'll take all the answers you can give me, man. Do you have a favorite song?
A favorite song? I don't know. I kind of tip back and forth, but I'd say probably right now it would be Medicate Me by Rain City Drive and Dayseeker. That's a big one. It's kind of like a pop punk alternative.
I listen to anything and everything. You should see, I started collecting records recently. You should see some of the stuff that I've got in there.
Yeah.
I am not against listening to any music that's good.
Well, my fiance is a concert photographer, so she's into like the metalcore plus pop punk scene.
Okay.
So I get to hear all of these bands that I've never heard of before in my life, and now that's all I listen to.
That's the way to do it. When I was younger and out of high school, my buddy was in a band before they moved to California, and at one point they were playing with the Yellow Card.
Oh wow!
But I would go follow them around and watch them play Hole in the Wall, and those are some good times. But
yeah.
Anyways, I'm getting way off topic here. Next question: one location you've got saved on your phone map.
Okay, so this is very odd because I didn't even know I could do this. But I was looking the other day, and it was like 900 North Market Street of like somewhere in the middle of Indiana. I don't know if it was like a location that I had once looked up, but it was just this random house in Indiana that I've never been to, a town I've never been in. I was looking something up for work one day, and I was like, what is this? Like, why does it have a little flag by it? And so that's the only one that I ever had. And I still got it on there just to have it.
Just as a reminder.
Yeah. I don't know who lives there, but it's a nice little house.
This next one might be, you might have an answer. I know most people go on vacation in the summertime, and you're busy racing cars in the summertime, but what is your favorite vacation spot?
The last 2 years, again, pretty grateful for my parents, but we've went to Cedar Point in Sandusky. Me and my fiance have gold passes to Kings Island because that's only a 45-hour trip to Kings Island. So we do that like maybe once a week, and weekends we're not racing. So we usually hit Cedar Point once a year. I don't think we're doing it this year. But yeah, I'd say Cedar Point. It's really fun. You get to be on the beach. You get to be riding roller coasters, and it's all right there in one spot.
Cedar Point is a good time. My wife's aunt and uncle live in Marblehead, so sometimes we'll go to Cedar Point Beach. They've got a little boat. We'll just take it over to Cedar Point Beach and hang out on the beach. Cool. And it's kind of cool to be at the beach with all the roller coasters in the background.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Something only few know about you.
So a lot of people don't know this, and some do, but I was in show choir for 4 years in high school. I was a singer-dancer in a choir of 50 kids, my freshman through senior year in high school.
If you would have told me that in back-to-back interviews, I would have asked that question and got the same answer, I would have said there is no way. So Jacob Horde was in show choir.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was working with, I actually choreographed 2 of my high school musicals and 2 of the junior high musicals. I worked with a choreographer from New York who was in The Greatest Showman, the movie.
Wow.
And then I was my dance captain for 2 years. My junior and senior year, I was the male dance captain for our team.
Man.
Yeah, I enjoyed the dance a lot, actually, and a lot of people make fun of me for it, but I enjoyed it. I love the performing part of it, and I guess that's why I like doing the interviews a lot. I just like to perform.
There you go. If you could own one car, what would it be?
1957 Chevy Bel Air. My grandpa Mike had them as race cars, and my grandpa Ronnie had one as a just a hot rod, and I've always loved them.
Okay. What is your go-to meal?
Anything pasta. It's a bad thing to say, but I love pasta. I love cooking Italian. I love eating Italian. I love everything Italian. So, I'll eat raw noodles. Heck, I just had I make carbonara. I made carbonara last night for dinner, and then I've got leftover noodles that I'll take for lunch tomorrow with a pesto on it. So, anything noodles is my desire.
All right. And the last question, and it might be a little bit lengthy. It might not. Funniest story you've got from the racetrack?
Oh man, from the racetrack. I've got one. It was a funny day, and my dad's gonna kick me for telling it, but we still laugh at him for it. We were leaving for Gas City. It was a Friday. Me and Dad took all day off work, and we were gonna go. The plan was to go to the dyno to run our motor because we had some problems. We were going to hit the dyno, then we were going to stop by Bennick's to pick up some parts, go to the racetrack, tie everything together, and then we were going to race Gas City that night. Well, we had went to the dyno, and it just didn't go right. We're, kind of put our tail between our legs that we were just still having motor issues. And we thought to ourselves, we were like, well, we'll just run tonight, see if we can't figure it out at the track and just use it as a learning night. So we go to Bennick Enterprises, which is like the speed shop in Indiana for anything sprint cars in the Marion area. And we get there, and we're just kind of hanging out. We got what we needed, and we're all watching the weather. As it was supposed to rain, and we weren't sure what they were going to do. So we sat there for a little bit. Finally, we were like, all right, well, we have to go. Like, we have to make the decision. We have to get there. So as soon as we pull into a parking spot, and it rains out. So it's just a somber day, like all day long. We realized our motor was down, and we get rained out. So we're on our way home, and we're on 69. We get stuck on 69 for like 3 more hours on a traffic jam. We finally get back, and we take 28. So we're taking Route 28, and we pass this truck. And again, all day, it's just kind of a somber tone. I said, "Hey, Dad, look. It's a truck that says 20 ribeyes for $35. And we're driving a little bit. He has some time to think about it, and he goes, that's not much of a deal. That's like $7 a steak. And I said, what? And he said, and now this is where it gets great, because he thought about it again, and he goes, yeah, it's like $7 a steak. That's not good at all. I was like, we just need to fucking go home. I was like, I can't take much more of this day. It was just one of those days that everything was down in the dumps, and he just said that, and like, it's always stuck with me. And I know I have way better stories and stuff, but that is just one that I love to tell on him. And we still, even to this day, he'll say something math that's just wrong. And I'll be like, $7 steaks, So if anybody ever sees my dad at the racetrack, please, by all means, bring up $7 steaks. I invite everybody to do it.
Oh, so getting close to the end of this, sponsors that you'd like to thank, and where can folks follow you at?
My sponsors, I'm going to have to thank Medway Tool Corp, ComConnect Telecommunications, CDS at Chase Dean Services for power washing, Joy Mayhab Realty with Caldwell Heritage, hit on Stiffel's Home and Auto. I got to shout out Metal Bright. Unfortunately, they are closing their doors here soon, but I still have to shout them out. One Shot Scrap and Recycling. They actually do all our decals on the car, but they're located in Bradford, and man, they take everything that you can give away. They'll take it. So let's see. I know I'm forgetting some. Oh, Performance Paint and Supply, right off of Webster and Dayton. You guys go see them. O'Reilly Machine Tool and Rushi. Miller Performance. They help us out with some of our plumbing and hoses and stuff. And then we possibly have a new guy coming on board, JG Roofing. So hopefully we can plug him, and that'll put the final nail in the coffin to get him on board with us. So we're still working on a couple more. Hoping to tie up some loose ends before the car show. We unfortunately lost Charger Manufacturing last year. He had some damage due to the hurricanes in his properties and stuff, so he wasn't able to come back on board, but we still appreciate what he did for us. So we do have a completely right side empty this year, which is new for us. So, yeah, we're still working on some loose ends here, trying to get some guys in, but if anybody ever has, anything they want to put on the car, money talks. So, but no, when it comes to social media wise, you can follow all of my race pages at Ryan Barr Racing. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I believe Facebook is the more popular one. My parents both run both of them. I don't have any involvement with the race pages, only my personal pages. And my mom actually has the Facebook one, and she'll post like during the day updates and everything. And then Twitter and Instagram, we really only do like, once every month or something. So Facebook is the one go-to.
Okay. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you as far as sponsorship or the few RB blocks that you got, they can go to your racing.
Yeah, they can go to the race page, or if they can find my personal page, it's just Ryan Barr. But yeah, if you do have any questions or anything involving that, you can just go to the race pages at Ryan Barr Racing.
And I took a lot of your time up. I really appreciate you coming on, man. It's
it was
always
great.
good to catch up with you. And We'll probably see you at the car show, and like I said, definitely see you at the racetrack a time or two. Just thanks for coming on, and have a good 2025 season.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for you.
As always, want to give a shout out to Victory Fuel. From Purple Potion to Throttle Punch to Lucky Lemon, fueled by electrolytes, charged with vitamins, and kid-friendly. Fuel your victory at drinkvictory.com and use the code Jesters10 at checkout to save. Drinkvictory.com and use the code Jesters10 at checkout to save.
I drank a beer. I drank another beer. 3 beers. 4 beers. Oh no.
Wrapping up this week's episode with race recap as well as racing to come. February 21st, they could not get it in at Texas Motor Speedway, nor could they get it in on the 22nd, Power I-410. They were postponing that race. On February 22nd, Buckshot Speedway was also postponed. Mojave Valley was able to get it in with the USAC CRA, where Jake Swanson would get the win, Tommy Malcolm would finish second, and RJ Johnson in third. Southern Raceway had the Battle at the Beach with USCS, and Dale Howard would get the victory. Davey Franken in second, and Mark Smith would round out the podium. And as I'm recording this, February 23rd, Lincoln Speedway is getting ready to run the Icebreaker 30. Racing to come, February 27th, I-37, the Power I Elite Outlaw Sprints. February 28th, Hattiesburg with USCS. Heart of Texas Speedway with US MTS. Southern Texas Race Ranch with Power I Elite Outlaw Sprints. Silver Dollar Speedway in the Silver Cup Night 1 with the 360 Sprints. Springfield Raceway in the 1989 Back in Time, $5,036 to win for the late models. March 1st, Brownstown's going to have the Northern All-Star late models as well as the Northern All-Star modifieds. Hattiesburg with USCS. Heart of Texas Speedway with US MTS. Lincoln and their 410 show, their season will get started with micro midgets as well. Southern Texas Race Ranch and the Power I Elite Outlaw Sprints. Silver Dollar Speedway and the finale of the Silver Cup for the 360 Sprints. Springfield Raceway in 1989, Back in Time, $10,036 to win for late models. And on March 2nd, at Volusia, the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars get back on track.
Goodbye. Mwah, and good night, bad.
Thanks as always for listening to the Dirt Court Jesters podcast. Follow us on Spotify, X, Facebook, and YouTube. And we hope to see you guys at the track.